Hello again, Westminster. My name is Boyd Taylor, and I'm here to talk about the fall edition of the Westminster Writers Journal and visit with one of our contributors. The Writers Journal, as you know, is a platform for creative expression, poetry, memoir, fiction, nonfiction by Westminster residents. And copies of the fall edition will be arriving soon. They'll be available at the little store, so we'll keep you advised. My guest today is one of those writers, 45 writers represented in the fall edition, as I said. And I'm happy to have as my guest Joan Mueller, who with her husband Bill moved to Westminster in 2012, I believe, when the Windsor building was opened. Joan is a fourth generation Californian. She was attending UC Berkeley when she met Bill. They married and moved to Los Angeles. She continued her education there. She has an MFA, Master of Fine Arts, and has had a career as a fine artist, represented in many California galleries. And as she demonstrates in this, in our fall edition, she's also a poet. Good day, Joan. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Surviving. We've been neighbors ever since the Windsor building opened. And we used to get to see each other, but not so much now. You all making do in the days of the pandemic.
We are, and we're really appreciating some things we didn't never have before, and that's time. I've been reading a lot, and we just enjoy a slower life, really. I don't think we want to go back to rushing around, so that part of it is good.
Yeah, you guys used to hit the road quite a bit and travel a lot.
Yeah, and we're doing a lot of things. We have one exercise, a Pilates class. We used to drive to it, and now it comes to us on Zoom, and we're just so happy. So
that's a very positive attitude.
Yeah, tonight we're going to a chamber music concert in Austin just by sitting in front of our screen. So what could you ask for? Nothing. I don't think we'll go out to concerts anymore.
I think I agree with you. I agree with you. Yeah. So we also are lucky to have such a good staff here who take good care of us.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate that very much.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you paint abstracts, I believe. How would you characterize your work?
Well, let me give you the background. I mean, I've done art stuff from when I was little, and my mother would give me things in my high chair. Then I quit for a long time, and I began taking some classes. When my children were small, I went back to it, and I was doing stuff at junior college and just doing my own stuff. And it progressed. We had a late child already. I'd actually finished UCLA with a bachelor's in political science, and we had a late baby, and so I was sort of off the track again and taking classes in junior college, which progressed to going to Cal State Long Beach as an undeclared graduate student because this program was impacted. I got into that, and I progressed through the different stages and ended up with an MFA and studio, and thinking, what am I doing now? I'm doing what I felt like what I really was called to do. And that was the world I wanted to be in. But along the way, in the classes I was taking, one teacher gave us an assignment. He said, I want you to go home and draw or paint 1 square inch of air. So I went home, and I had a family, and I was standing there in front of the kitchen sink, and my little ivy plant was hanging over the sink, and I started working on this thing. And as I did it, it became abstract. It changed from what I was seeing there to what I was adjusting and doing with it, with colors and form. Mm-hmm. And I went in that direction. And my best mentor was a painter who did Vermeer-like oil paintings. And he looked at my stuff and said, how do you do that? And in the process, I thought, you know, my mother isn't going to understand what I'm doing. But it was what I was called to do. I mean, I could see myself, and it wasn't easy. People say, oh, that's easy. But it's progress. And you get into some real messes making an abstract painting. And then you try and figure out how you're going to get out of that without going back and just correcting in a little ways. So each one is a process through to something that's completed. And people don't realize that.
And you know when it's completed?
Yeah. And also I saw a wonderful advisor. I showed her my work and she said, the main thing is not to go too far. As you get to a point and you think, I'll just do a little something, and you really take the freshness out of it. So there's a lot to doing one. And every time I went in the studio, it was a blank piece of paper and starting out with another thing. What's it going to be?
So what's the medium for most of your work? It's
I evolved to doing acrylic.
acrylic.
And the day I found that, I knew I was in the right place, because when you're using oil, you can't work quickly. And when I tried working quickly with oil, I'd end up with a mess of color that all turned out gray because the colors would not dry. You'd have to wait a long time to dry. So it was a great.
So the acrylic was what permitted the process that you.
Yeah, the process to work quickly.
Yeah.
And I'd often have 3 or 4 things going. I did them on paper and I have them spread around the room, and I'd go from one to the other. And my graduate show was 4 9 by 12 foot paintings hung against the wall, not framed. And
did you say 9 by 12 foot?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I was, at the time, I was in my 40s and the kids were off at school, and I was just doing what I was going to do as a grown up. And my models were the painters in New York, the New York school, the abstract painters. Most of them were men, but they did individual work. Didn't look like anybody else's, and that's what I was after. So I started out with them really big, and when I graduated and I had a studio, I thought, what am I going to do with big paintings? I showed them around, and it was really hard to find a dealer who wanted big paintings. There was one woman from Texas who wanted to buy them, but her dealer didn't like them.
Shame on her.
Yeah, really. I don't know where she is, but I'll find her someday. So anyway, I began doing them smaller, like 4 foot square or wider.
Excuse me, I'll turn that off.
Yeah. So they would be the same sort of thing where it went off of the frame. There was not a structure, and there was not an image that was being formed. It was just expanding. And so I did that. And then eventually I put those together into large paintings. Anyway, I had a lot of fun for a long time doing that.
So are any of them in series, or are they all freestanding works?
They're freestanding. A couple of them were combined into diptychs, or, you know, when we're 4 hung together, but mostly they're individual.
So there must. I read on your website that your work is characterized by energy and spontaneity and emotion. Is that correct characterization of what you're doing?
Yeah.
There's some very interesting pieces there. I have pictures of them on your website. I enjoyed looking at them.
Thank you.
It also said that while you were working in California, there was a unique light in California. Is that correct? And is it a lot different here?
Well, this was it when we moved to Southern California. There's a lot more sunlight there. In the Bay Area, there'd be times when you wouldn't have the sun till the middle of the day. So that's a different story.
So it was like going to the south of France, I guess, in a way.
Yes, yeah.
So as I said, the viewers can see examples of your work on your website. So tell us a little more about your career as an artist and where you go.
My website first, so people could have that if they want to look it up. JoanMueller36.com.
JoanMueller36.com.
Yeah. Excuse me, what were you saying?
I was asking you to tell us about some of the shows you had, galleries where you'd shown, and high milestones in your career.
Well, I started out since I was in my 40s and I didn't know how to do it too well. I wasn't going into town all the time to network. I showed at the LA County Museum in the Redl Gallery, and a lot of people bought my works from that gallery. That was an opening. I did that in San Francisco at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. And different people bought from there. One of the women who bought called me up and asked if she could represent me in her gallery in San Francisco. And that was Danielle Steele.
That was quite a step, wasn't it?
Well, people would say, Danielle Steele. Well, she loved art and she loved to, to find new artists. So that was her gallery. And I did that for 3 years. And it was like having a favorite aunt. I mean, she treated us like family. She was busy. She had 9 children and she was always writing books. But when she had a party for us when we first joined the gallery. And there was a jazz band that was in a nice restaurant. And when we went to sit at our seats, each seat, including our guests, was piled with gifts from her. I've never been treated like that by any gallery. So
no other gallery treated you that way.
No. So it was
no other gallery was owned by a best-selling author.
Right. So there are a lot of stories to that, but I had a dealer in Laguna Beach for quite a while, and one in Santa Fe. And other times I was my own representative. I didn't have a gallery that really promoted me. So I would submit to shows, and I've been in fact, I was in one here in Austin at Laguna Gloria that I submitted a large painting by a slide, and it was accepted a juried show. So I've been a lot of places.
So that was, did you say at Laguna Gloria?
Yeah. Probably about 15 years ago or something like that. Yeah,
they've done a lot of work changing since they became the contemporary, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful spot over there.
Yeah.
So turning from painting to poetry, what do you think attracts you to writing poetry?
Well, I started out in a group when we still lived in Southern California, a writer, a professor of creative writing, working in a small group, writing our own stories with prompts that she gave us. And she gave us such freedom. And one of those wonderful things where she was always positive about whatever you did. So it was just a good atmosphere, and that's where I started. And I've never found another group quite like that, but I've done things just on my own. And I try and just, since you want a description, I would say a lot of them are events, something that I've known that I want to make visual and alive for an audience, and that's all. And as I know more about poetry, there's a lot of richness in poetry, but this is what I've been doing. And usually you can see the image. You can, like the one I did as a little child who you're painting out in the yard. I know that place.
So do you think there's a kinship between the painter and the poet?
Well, it's just me doing what I do. Same
kind of sensibility, yeah. I mean.
Yeah, I guess so. Wanting to make something visual, and usually it's a memory, like the one we have today from here is something that happened here, and I just enjoy that and wanted to let people see it because it's gone now. That's just, things come and go here. People used to write plays and put them on, so Westminster evolves, and this was one period I really enjoyed.
Well, yeah, I want you to read from that in a moment, but I was in our spring edition, you chose to write, I guess we would call it an essay, and it was entitled What I Really Want to Write About Is. And let me read a little bit of that to you, if you may remember it or not, but the smock had been fastened at the nape of her neck, the long hair pulled out and down her back. She poised her brush in front of a large sheet of blank paper on the easel before her. A new house was going to rise in the clearing. The early freshness of the day on the empty playground with the birds in the nearby tree was an ideal time to be outdoors. She had nothing to do except lift the brush and flow into the process unself-consciously. I won't read the rest of it, but you know, that's almost a poem. It's very lyrical. Uh, and so do you distinguish between writing prose and writing poetry, because your style in that particular piece, as I say, was very was lyrical, almost blank verse, I thought.
Mhm. No, I don't know how to put myself in any kind of a box. I just do it.
Yeah.
And as I read, I mean, I'm reading more poetry by some people like Louise Glück and other poets who won awards, poets that I really admire, but I don't fit into the category somehow.
Well, I really enjoy what you do. And I guess we talked about this a little bit. What you want the reader to experience is in poetry is to see, in some sense, the same image, that, or to see the image and make its own, his own interpretation of that image based on his own experience. So the reader will bring his own experience to the writing, and hopefully you will add something to his to the total engagement, if that makes sense.
It would be a little bit like seeing a video of what happened.
Yeah.
So that you can have the whole thing just pouring over you, what was going on.
Yeah. So the poem "A Memory" is about a fountain which is familiar to Westminster residents in the Preston courtyard. Would you read it for us? Okay,
first I'll say it's the old fountain. They put in a new fountain when that one was cracked.
This is the old fountain.
This poem is about the one that was here until it cracked and they took it out and put in this new fountain. So
yes.
It's a memory.
Okay.
Okay, a summer morning at 5:38 a.m. 2020, I woke and began hunting for the poem I wrote about a late summer afternoon spent in the Preston courtyard by the old fountain near the magnolia tree. Tumbling water fountain 3 tiers tall, bubbling water, raucous birds flutter and bathe. A regular water throwing scene, all frisky at play, delight overflows. Down one level, an unusual sight. Rubber duckies bob and splash round the base of the lowest pool, senior residents, the 2-footed kind, perch, dip fingers, losing decorum, and spray the air as birds do. The rubber duckies already mentioned in costumes from dirndls to lederhosen and cowboy hats join in with smiles painted on, a grand final summer gala. There's another line to it, but I don't have it here. Pool to be closed till next summer is the last line, I think it is.
Yes. Thank you. So that's a very engaging poem.
Well, that other part of it is that we don't have the rubber duckies in there now. They don't allow them.
Yeah.
But people used to come and put them in and they would float around.
Yeah, I remember that.
They would be taken away and nobody knew why or where, and they have not come
what
back.
Rule that violated, but
Yeah.
I don't know. But,
enforced now.
Thank you for sharing that with us today, Joan, and thank you for being here. We'll look forward to whichever form you choose to share with us in the next edition of the journal.
Thank you very much.
And now to all of you watching out there, the Writer's Journal Fall Edition will be here in a matter of weeks. We'll keep you advised. And so this is Boyd Taylor saying thanks again to Joan Mueller, and thanks to all of you Westminster residents for tuning in. We'll see you soon and stay safe.